It is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, and welcome in to Armchair Analysis. I'm your host, Tyler Isley. Today, it's all about the Big Ten. We're going to preview everything to do with this conference, names to watch, player of the year, coach of the year, and, of course, conference championship picks. We are going to call a little bit of an audible from what yesterday I told you guys would happen. Today, we're going to do Heisman predictions today. Was going to be college football playoff predictions, but I figured why would I do that instead of wait until tomorrow, do the SEC preview, and then give you my playoff predictions. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully, y'all are okay with that. Uh, if you're not, okay, well, I make the rules anyways. But I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun so far in the preview season. And now, as we get closer to playing season, which starts this Saturday, week 0 is upon us and I'm really excited for it. But today, let's talk about Big Ten. Let's preview the Big Ten. Um, and without really any further interruptions, let's go ahead and talk. Now, I normally give you guys my players to watch, my names to watch for every team. I give you guys one name or a position group, and I'm going to do the exact same thing here today. We're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with Illinois. My name to watch is wide receiver Hudson Clement. Now, I know that some people are going to be like, who in the hell is that? A really solid wide receiver from West Virginia has transferred in and become, I think he's going to become really a team favorite kind of guy, a guy that a lot of people love in the locker room. He's a guy that was super, I think solid, was reliable. I guess would be the word I would use. When he was at West Virginia, he ended up becoming a favorite target of Garrett Green over the last couple of years. I really expect some big things for him. I think he can be a favorite target of Luke Altmaier in this offense. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. So Hudson Clement is my name for Illinois. At Indiana, I'm looking at running back Roman Hemby, and simply because he's coming over from Maryland, he is a downhill runner who's still got some decent speed. He can break away from the pack if he wants to. But he's a downhill runner, really different from what they had last year. But I think he's going to be a very welcome change. Excited to see what he brings to this Indiana offense that looks like it's going to be pretty good again this year. At Iowa, I'm looking at defensive end Max Llewellyn. Just continuing to expect more and more improvement from him. I don't know if I would call this year maybe a breakout year, but I think he can certainly have that potential. So Max Llewellyn's a guy I'm watching here. At Maryland, I'm looking at safety Jalen Husky. He's the only returning starter on defense. I expect him to kind of be the leader of this defense. A team I don't have high expectations for, but nonetheless, I still think that Husky can be a really solid leader, really solid mentor to some of the younger guys on the team. At Michigan, I'm looking at wide receiver Donovan McCulley. Look, this team's been looking for a wide receiver to break out and be a star. And from everything I've seen, everything I've heard, Donovan McCulley looks like the real deal. And why wouldn't he be? He was really good at Indiana. Certainly, I think will fit into the Chip Lindsey offense really well. And this is an offense that I'm expecting to kind of take off and be a little better, certainly a lot better this year. But kind of approach that 25 to 30 point per game number, if not go above it. Um, really high hopes for what Michigan can be. I think they'll continue to focus on the power run, but in the passing game, I think Donovan McCulley becomes a really big name, a household name in a lot of Michigan circles this year. At Michigan State, I'm looking at the linebacker room. They're just replacing a lot of experience. I'm expecting a little bit of a fall off, but I think that depending upon how well they can kind of, depending on how well they can get going and how quickly they can really find a rhythm as a team and as a defense, I think Michigan State might be a little bit more of a surprise team than we expect. But for right now, staying where I was on them, staying at the level I was on them, just think the defensive linebacker room is going to be a big key to them this year. At Minnesota, I'm looking at safety Cord Perrick. Look, this is a guy that I think has serious potential. He had, I think, 5 interceptions last year as a true freshman. Was a punt returner, kick returner, really just a playmaker last year. I'm expecting him to fall into a bigger role. He's going to take on a full-time starting role where he started last year and played a considerable amount. But I think he's going to take on that role a little bit differently, take on a leadership role, really be a big deal for this defense. I know what the offense is going to be. I have really high hopes for A.J. Turner, the transfer from Marshall, and along with Darius Taylor. That's going to be a great running back duo. The defense is a question mark for me. But I think with guys like Perrick on this team, I really expect some good stuff. Minnesota's a team I stay at the 9-3 record I had on them preseason during the preview season. Really like what I saw and have seen so far from them. Nebraska wide receiver Dane Key, coming in from Kentucky, going to be, I think, maybe the best playmaker they've had for Dylan Raiola to throw to this point in his career, which doesn't say a lot, but it says just enough. I think Dane Key is going to be a big part of this offense in 2025. At Northwestern, I'm looking at quarterback Preston Stone. Yeah, that's the first time I've done that. It's longer than I've gone on anybody on any other conference. Pause. But Preston Stone is the guy that I really expect a lot from. I think, look, I've carried water for this guy for years. I'm not going to stop just because he transferred out of SMU, just because he lost the starting job. I think Preston Stone is going to be a really difference maker, a real difference maker for this Northwestern offense. They may not be good. The team may not be good. But I think Preston Stone will be a bright spot. At Ohio State, I'm looking at the defensive line. They're really high on the D line, and I certainly don't blame them. Caden Curry is a guy that they're expecting a lot from. But this team, I think, does have question marks, and it revolves around what I mentioned. I think yesterday when we were talking on the top 25, Matt Patricia is a guy coming from the NFL. How long does it take him to adjust to the college game and the calling at the college game? He hasn't been here in a long time. How long does it take him to really get a rhythm and understand what he needs to call, when he needs to call it? Because we saw Wink Martindale, who's been around for a lot longer in this game, do the exact same thing last year. It's just something that I can see happening again. We'll see what it is, but Matt Patricia and Ryan Day, they really love this D-line unit. At Oregon, I'm looking at the wide receiver room. Evan Stewart had a torn ACL in spring practice. He's out for the year. Who's going to step up? Obviously, they're really excited about Corian Moore, but who else can step up? Who else can play a big factor in this offense? It isn't just going to be one player. That's going to be a big difference maker again. For first-year Oregon starter Dante Moore has some big shoes to fill with Dylan Gabriel and even Bo Nix a couple years ago. It's going to be a year of, I think, a little bit of trial, but they're certainly going to get the job done. I expect some big things from Oregon this year, too. Penn State, I'm looking at linebacker Dominic DeLuca. I really like what he can be, what he has been over the last couple of years. Now he's getting a chance to start full-time. I think it's only going to get better. Him and Tony Rojas, that's a really good duo at linebacker. At Purdue, I'm looking at cornerback Tony Grimes. Look, he's a guy who's been around a little bit in college football, was with Barry Odom back at UNLV. I think he's going to be a big-time leader for this defense in 2025. At Rutgers, I'm looking at the defensive ends, Eric O'Neal and Bradley Weaver, both of them transfers from JMU and Ohio, respectively. Expecting some serious improvement from that D-line this year. Greg Schiano really loves his line of scrimmage and his line of scrimmage play. Curious to see what Rutgers looks like this year. I don't know that they'll be as good as last year record-wise, just because I think that they have a tougher schedule. But this D-line, I think, is going to be really solid. A bright spot, certainly. At UCLA, I'm looking at running back Javian Thomas. Could have been obvious one with Nico, but Javian Thomas is a running back who I think was overshadowed a lot by Jaden Ott at Cal. Javian Thomas could be a really solid running back. I think he'll go over 1,000 yards this year. At USC, I'm looking at quarterback Jaden Maiava. Again, I mean, we've only got 2 quarterbacks on here so far. But Jaden Maiava, this is a big deal because he fits the bill of a Lincoln Riley quarterback, but his health is imperative to this season. If he gets hurt, USC is in some serious trouble. Need to keep him healthy, need to keep him confident, making plays. Jaden Maiava is a guy that I have some higher hopes for as well. Washington, I'm saying at quarterback. There's only 3 out of 18. I think I did okay. Damon Williams is going to be a big deal. I think he's a dark horse Heisman contender, a serious dark horse Heisman contender. I like what Washington can be this year, and I certainly like Damon Williams. At Wisconsin, I'm looking at wide receiver Jaden Ballard, formerly of Ohio State pedigree. Was a guy that just couldn't stay healthy and then got passed up on the depth chart time and time again. Jaden Ballard's a guy that I think is going to step up and be a solid playmaker. I think Wisconsin's got a quietly decent wide receiver room this year, but the rest of the team I think does not follow suit. It'll be interesting to watch, but Jaden Ballard's my guy for Wisconsin. As for standings, going ahead and pulling that up, I have Michigan winning the regular season Big Ten championship by way of going 9-0 in conference play. Now, why did I predict 9-0? Because I think the toughest game they play is Ohio State. Now I'd have to look at their schedule again, and I'm sorry, I gotta dig through my book to get there. But here are some of the tougher games. They play Oklahoma. That's not a conference game. At USC and at Nebraska is going to be tough because they're not going to have Sherrone Moore. But at USC, they're going to play Washington at home. They're going to want to get back after that. They're going to want to prove to USC that, yeah, USC, you were in that game because we just couldn't throw the ball. I think that's a difference this year. As for Nebraska, I don't really see any changes. I don't care who the interim coach is. I don't see this being a difference. Um, at Michigan State's going to be interesting. Northwestern's going to be played at Wrigley Field, so that's not a true road game. At Maryland, Maryland's at the bottom of the conference. What am I going to say there? No, Ohio State at the end of the year in Ann Arbor. You include Wisconsin and Purdue on there. I just don't see Michigan losing a conference game. And if they do, it's going to be one of those road games. Or they'll lose to Ohio State finally. But I don't particularly see that happening. I think Michigan at home is going to be able to get the job done there. So I have 11-1 and 9-0. I have them losing to Oklahoma. I have Penn State making the Big Ten championship by way of beating Oregon and having a tiebreaker there. Oregon third, Ohio State fourth. All three of those teams have one loss. I think Penn State's loss is to Ohio State. I don't really know how the proper tiebreaker would look in that scenario. I went with Penn State for best record, and I think they're the ones who are going to get there. So that's what I went with there. At 5, I have Indiana with 2 losses. I have Washington, USC, Minnesota. All three of them 9-3, 6-3. Illinois, I have 8-4. Nebraska 8-4. Iowa 6-6, but I think they'll be maybe a little better than 6-6. Then I got Michigan State, Rutgers, UCLA, kind of just missing out on bowl games. Then Purdue, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland are the 4 that I really just think are going to be at the bottom. As for teams that can win the conference, I think it's anybody in that top 4. Everybody else is kind of good luck. Dark horse of Washington, certainly. USC I like, but again, it comes down to health. Minnesota I like, but I just don't think they're as talented as the rest. It'll be interesting to watch. As for the Big Ten title game, I have Penn State beating Michigan. Penn State will win the conference. I have Sherrone Moore as the coach of the year. Big time turnaround. You can't really deny that. And Drew Aller, Penn State, as the player of the year in the Big Ten. So that's what I have for you there. Now turning around and let's go ahead and look at my Heisman predictions. Let me know what you guys think though, real quick before we get going. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. What you would change. I'm sure I'm probably wrong on Michigan. Sorry. But that's how my predictions came out, and I don't really sway from. If my predictions are what I believe, it's hard for me to change my tune on it. So, it'll be interesting to watch. It'll be an interesting year to watch. I think the top 4 are the best 4, and you can put them in any order, and I would believe it. But let me know again in the comments. What did I hit on? What I miss on? Who do you think wins the conference here in 2025? Moving on to my Heisman predictions. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up here. You're going to see who my winner is right away. But Cade Klubnik is my prediction to win the Heisman. But I have DJ Lagway finishing second. Norris Sellers, Jeremiah Smith, and Sawyer Robertson. And Sawyer Robertson not being in the conversation really at all preseason. He's my dark horse pick in 2025. I think he has a real shot to do it. What he can do on the ground, what he's able to do through the air, the amount of returning production that Baylor has. I know I've kind of stumped for Baylor a lot the last few weeks, but I really buy into it. I think this is a really good team. I think they got a really good player in Sawyer Robertson. Anybody in this top 4, though, I certainly think will probably be in some order the way it finishes. You could probably add maybe a John Mateer or whoever you wish to this, but this is what I think is going to happen. This is how I feel the top 5 is going to be. So let me know what you guys think. There's not a whole lot to add to this. I'm very high on Florida, South Carolina, Ohio State. I think it's going to be good, and I think Jeremiah Smith's going to be kind of the center of the offense. Same thing with Sawyer Robertson just being really good, and then Cade Klubnik. I really like this Clemson team. I ranked them number 1 yesterday, and I'm sticking to that. I think they are a really solid football team. So with that said, Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. You get my college football playoff predictions plus my SEC conference predictions. Just happy to have you guys here tuning in. So thank y'all so much. And again, I'll be back in town Friday. So if you're seeing this, this is pre-recorded. I'm not currently in town. That's why this show's a little shorter. Tomorrow's show's going to be a little shorter. But when we come back, we'll have plenty more to talk about on Friday. So thank y'all. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.